Well, greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is still doing well, and welcome to today's bonus upload. Before we jump into it, a couple links. As you all know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, channel membership, and the merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Links to Patreon, PayPal, and channel membership is in the description below. The merch is displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support this channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe. It does not cost you a cent. Click that like button, takes half a second. If you don't want to miss out on any of the informative uploads I put out daily, click that bell icon, and folks, please leave a comment. Why? Well, because all these things, they really do help this channel to continue to grow and go. And yes, folks, they definitely do matter. Now, everyone, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's jump into today's bonus, shall we? Today's first encounter. In December of 2006, my family and I moved into a new home. Well, new for us. It was an older house. I am the head of that household. I have a wife and 3 small children. At the time, we thought we were really lucky to find such an awesome deal. It was a 2,800 square foot house in the woods with no neighbors for $1,000 a month. I was a successful car salesman at the time, and my wife was a nurse. We thought the house was great, but after moving in, I noticed something very odd. There had been a padlock on the door of the basement that had been removed, but you could still see the screw holes in the door and on the frame where it had been. The strange thing is, afterward, I felt like something was waiting for me to notice that, because after I did, that's when things started to happen. The house was a bi-level house, with half of the house being a 2-story house and the other half being one. The part of the house that was bi-level had the bedrooms on the 2nd floor. The other half had the living room, dining room, and kitchen. One night, after putting our kids to bed upstairs, my wife and I were watching TV in the living room. About an hour or so after the kids were asleep, my 4-year-old son came running down the stairs, terrified and screaming. After I got him calmed down, he told me, there was something in his room that kept grabbing him and trying to pull him off his bed by his ankles. When he said that to me, it made the hair on my neck stand up. I calmed him down and got him to go back to sleep by lying next to him in his room. A few hours after that, my wife and I were in bed, and we were awoken by a blood-curdling scream coming from our 2-year-old daughter's room. When we went into her room, she was sitting straight up in her bed, screaming at the top of her lungs with her eyes closed. There was nothing we could do to get her to stop. We both tried holding her and coddling her, but it did not work. We tried to wake her up, and that wouldn't work. Finally, after 10 minutes, she just lied down and went silent again. After this, nothing notable happened until spring. Now, I'm a smoker, and there had been a decent deck on the back of the house that I had took to smoking on. One warm spring night, I was standing on the deck smoking a cigarette when I heard something coming through the woods. It wasn't uncommon to hear deer or smaller animals scurrying about in the forest, but there was something much different about this. It sounded like it was coming directly at me. As it grew louder, I knew it was coming directly at me, and it also sounded like it was walking on 2 legs. I lived in the woods for most of my life, and I can tell something is walking on 2 or 4. From the deck, the edge of the woods is about 25 to 30 feet away. Whatever this was walked all the way to the edge of the woods and stopped. As I squinted to try to see if I could see anything, it began to pace back and forth, and I am sure it was watching me. I called out, "I own a gun." but it didn't stop for a second. It had a slow, methodical walk as it paced back and forth. This was in stark contrast to when it was walking toward me, which was a more purposeful walk. I quickly went inside and turned the lights out and looked through the window to see if I could see anything, but I couldn't. By the next morning, I had convinced myself that it was a deer, and I had just given myself the willies because I was out there alone. But then it happened that night and the night after. It only happened after everyone else was in bed and I was outside smoking by myself. Then it got worse. After a few nights, it didn't scare me anymore because it would walk to the edge of the forest and then stalk back and forth. I got to where I would finish my cigarette and then I would give it the finger and go back inside. One night I was outside smoking, and it came as it always did and started stalking as always, and I just stood there and stared in the direction the whole time. I consider myself a decent-sized guy, and I am not scared easily, so I decided to stand my ground. It must have sensed this because it stopped and made the strangest sound at me. I know what a deer grunt and a snort sounds like, and this wasn't either. It wasn't a large cat, dog sound, or any other animal I can think of. It was like a low, guttural, evil growl. Actually, that doesn't even give it justice. It was something I had never heard before, and that's for sure. And it definitely scared me so bad that, before I knew it, I was back on the other side of the door looking back out. After that, I started smoking in the garage with my hand sticking out of the door. After a couple weeks, I'd convinced myself once again that I had just given myself the willies and there was really nothing to be afraid of. So one night I went outside to smoke. Not long after I went outside, I heard it come from two different directions. One came from my left and one came directly in front of me. The rest of what happened to me happened really fast, but I'm going to try to explain the best I can. Once the two entities walked to the edge of the woods, I saw a blur of white go from my right to my left in front of me. Then from the corner of my eye there was something standing there at first. I believe it was a deer, but when I turned to look, there was nothing. Then from the woods I heard that horrible, terrifying scream, and I ran into the house. I didn't go out to smoke ever again after that. A few nights later, I was awoken to the sound of our bedroom door rattling. I would sleep with our bedroom door open and the hallway light on in case one of our kids got up to use the bathroom. As I was waking up, my first thought was one of the kids was just playing with the door because as I opened my eyes, I could see someone in the doorway that was about 3 feet tall. I opened my eyes wide to tell them to go back to bed, and then there was nobody there. After that, I decided to move my family out of that house. We were actually sued by the landlord because we broke our lease early. Today's second encounter. We were a group of around 5 or 6 friends and family, all older teens, who were camping overnight at a private campground on a small lake in the Kettle Moraine State Forest region of Washington County, Wisconsin. The year was circa 1970 in midsummer. The nearest town was Kewaskum. It was a very rural farmland mixed with deciduous and pine forest. We chose to relocate our campsite a bit further from the main campground in a secluded, natural, particularly circular clearing. We liked this spot because of the unusual shape and the fact that it contained sort of a carved-out depression in the center. Here we wished to build our fire and hang out. The sun began to set as we built our fire, roasting hot dogs and singing. Someone happened to remark upon the primordial setting and how we resembled a group of ancient people who may have been just doing the same thing thousands of years ago. Time passed, and the hour was about 10 p.m. We began to exchange spooky stories. The sky was very clear, and there was an abundance of shooting stars. Also, the moon was so bright we could actually see quite a bit, although we were far from any city lights. Soon everything grew quiet. There were crickets, of course, but no other folk were around, only us. Suddenly, off in the woods, we heard a sound of something coming towards us, breathing very heavily. This area had long become devoid of any large wild animals. Pieces of wood were crackling and breaking as it was walking. We could hear large, trudging footsteps in the underbrush and a loud, snarling, huffing, puffing sound. It didn't sound like an animal, but more human. Soon we also heard twigs snapping and the creature, whatever it was, getting closer and closer to the edge of the woods and near our clearing. It let out several blood-curdling growls, and it was so close we were terrified. That was all it took for us to be so shaken. We gathered up our gear and ran out of there as fast as we could so the creature couldn't get us. It really was trying to chase us out of the spot, I believe. None of us slept the entire night. I have been in camping situations where young men try to scare you, but they are usually in groups or drunk, and end up showing themselves and causing trouble. This was one creature against several of us, and it showed no fear. I'm sorry to say that we didn't get a glimpse. At the time, everyone knew about Bigfoot, so we assumed that is what we had encountered. We talked about it, but never found out what it was, until I heard some stories on the internet. Could this have been a man-dog? Could we have accidentally conjured something up due to our youth or presence in this particular area? I am a school teacher of 53 years old, living in LA now. Today's third encounter. My best friend Rachel and I have been friends almost our entire lives, since the second grade. We have now graduated out of school. The first time I ever spent the night at her house was when we were probably in 6th grade. We saw something. We both woke up out of a dead sleep and looked out her window. What we saw changed our lives forever. It looked similar to a man, but with red eyes. I thought I was dreaming at first, but the next morning Rachel asked if I had seen it. That's when she told me it wasn't her first encounter with it. She had seen it outside of her house, which was on a big hill surrounded by woods, several times since she was around 6 years old. We have both seen this creature several times since then, both together and separately. It's taller than the average man, around 6 to 7 feet. Its arms and legs look like they have been stretched. Its skin is so pale it looks gray, and it moves extremely fast, unless it wants you to see it. When I lived with my dad, his house is about a mile away from Rachel's. I had woke up in the middle of the night to use the bathroom. As I walked past our front door, I happened to look out of the side panel window next to it, and I saw the creature for a split second on the porch. It stepped right out of the porch light to where it was pitch black. I ran to the bathroom and stayed in there for about 20 minutes to try to calm down. When I went back out of the bathroom, I ran to my room. I was probably 17 at the time. Another terrifying experience with this thing is when myself, Rachel, and my dad's friend were taking my girlfriend home. After we had dropped her off, we went the long way to Rachel's house. Rachel and I were in the back of the truck, just enjoying the breeze. It was dark out, probably 9 or 10. And we went by this house that was in the middle of this huge open field. They had on a bright porch light, and a little ways away from the house was a single tree. Rachel and I both looked near the tree, but not at the tree, because beside it was the creature. It stood there in the open. It's like it wanted us to see it. I don't know what this thing is, but if you've ever seen the movie The Descent, that's the closest thing I have to describe. I am completely terrified of that movie. I've watched it, and it literally brought me to tears. I love horror movies, and I don't get scared too easily by them, but I guess it's the personal accounts that got me. Every time we have seen it, it's like it wanted to be seen. But it just stands there and watches. I live in a small backwoods town in southern Ohio. It's only 10 minutes to West Virginia and 15 from Kentucky. These stories are only a few of the many encounters. I'm now 20 years old, but haven't seen it in a while. It continues to haunt my memories. Today's fourth encounter. My friends and I, about 20 years ago, had a very strange encounter when walking late at night down a rural road not far out of town. It's farm country, and there was a cornfield to the west of us and also to the east of the road. There was also something in the corn, making panting noises like a large dog that was very hot. It crossed the road behind us and seemed to be marking pace with us as we went north. It was late, around 2 in the morning, and it frightened us to say the least because it was so dark we couldn't even see in front of our faces, and just the dark outlines of the cornfield and close road shrubs. There was a moon, but very few peaks of light because of the cloudy early summer night. I remember it was a very hot night out, but I can't recall if it was a full moon. We could hear it moving through the field. One of the guys had enough and chucked a fist-sized rock chest-high straight at where he thought the sound was coming from, and made a direct hit with something very solid that yelped, and then howled like an injured dog. Then it growled loudly, a bit further off. We took off running because the house we were heading to was close now. Before that, we did see some yellow eyes at one point that we thought were in a tree when the moon had peeked out. And, though I didn't see it myself, one of the guys thought it was standing upright under the tree and not in it, about the height of a tall man. And there was a roadkill kind of smell in the air. That was one long walk, about 1.5 miles, and when I see people who were with me, less now that we're older and have moved on with separate lives, we still nervously mention it to each other. And yes, we had a few drinks. That's why we were walking in the first place. But I know I was not drunk because I hate alcohol. I just couldn't drive a stick shift, and the only car my boyfriend had at the time was a stick shift, so we had to hoof it. It appeared to be canine, but I never got a look at it. Today's final encounter. I'm a college kid, and I live in Big Rapids. And I've heard people talking about this building in Reed City where this thing hangs out. We arrived there at 2:30 in the morning, and there we sat. After about a half of an hour, something caught our eye. About 50 yards to the right of us, we saw something move. We didn't think anything of it until we heard big twigs start snapping. I got out my mag light and shined it in the area. I saw something that was not human. There were crickets all around, and all of a sudden they stopped. I kept on seeing something move over in the woods, kind of a silhouette. I thought it was a deer until we shined the light on it. Must have been 6'9". It was huge. It was humanoid. I could see below the midsection. I could see thighs, but not feet. I'm believing it was bipedal. The hair was either dark brown or black, probably dark brown. Must have covered most of the body, maybe an inch thick. We did see one arm. One of my friends saw it. It was behind a tree in a little wooded area, and it stood half behind the tree, half exposed. Didn't move at all when we had the light on it. Its arm was longer than a human's. When we saw it in the light, when it was standing still looking a little hunched, I only got a small view of its face. I could tell that it was very hairy, but it didn't remind me of a dog's face. The way the eyes were set made me think of a human. I couldn't see its ears. I remember the mouth to be narrow, but I do recall seeing a nose on the end of its snout. All I really could tell was the eye color was yellow, and the eyes had a little slant. I think it may have had some light reflecting off its eyes. It has a very large forehead. When I saw a picture of a sketch of a Dogman, it really didn't look like that. This freaked us out so bad that we had to leave in the car. We left and then said we have to figure out what that thing was. Stupid college kids. After about a half a mile, we decided we had to go back and see really what it was. We pulled back up to the church and sat for 5 minutes before strange things started happening. First of all, we heard noises all around us. I can't explain these noises, but they put shivers down my spine. Then, as soon as the noises stopped, a motion light on the building turned on and we heard something run away very fast. I was scared. I couldn't even move. We were in a car this whole time, mind you. All of a sudden, my friend spots something behind us. I push the clutch in and slowly roll back to get a closer view. My friend shined a light on him, and 2 yellow eyes were staring at us. I thought it was a regular road reflector until I saw it blink. Then a feeling came over me. I felt that this thing wanted to do harm to us. I could tell that this thing was on 2 legs at the time we saw the eyes. I fired up the car and floored it. We must have been going 40, and I could see my brake lights that something was chasing us on 4 legs. Eventually, I lost the thing and had to pull over down a road to calm myself and my friends down. I don't know if this was a Dogman or not, but this thing is not human, it's not natural, and it's not friendly. I don't think that this is a figure of my imagination for 2 reasons. I didn't believe in the supernatural, and 3 other people saw the same exact thing I did. I really believe it could have been a Dogman. We were sitting in the car after we saw it, comparing to our own bodies. We didn't really see the face until we came back. We were in the car the whole time. We could all see it from the car. There was a motion light on the side of the building, which was abandoned, but someone was trying to remodel it. Motion light came on, and that freaked us out a bit. We all listened, and we heard something moving very fast behind the church. But we really couldn't see it clearly. It moved ungodly fast. I looked in my rearview mirror, and I thought I saw something go by the lighted tree. Then we lost it for just a little bit. After we were shining the light on it, I was holding my mag light, and I was shaking so bad I actually dropped it. My buddy, who was sitting in the back of my hatchback, said, "What's that?" And in the tall weeds on the side of the road were 2 yellow eyes, kind of slanted in a way. It didn't have a long snout like a dog, but the snout was narrow. It wasn't human, and it wasn't a dog. It wasn't a flat face like a human. All I saw was hair underneath what I presumed to be a jaw, like a cape or a mane. From what I saw, it was kind of slender in stature, not beefy. I would guess 210 to 220 pounds. The head reminded me of a canine shape, the kind of triangle-looking head. It was looking completely straight on at us. It could have had ears, but it was too dark to see them, so whether they sat further back or not, I'm not sure. I've seen pictures of Bigfoot, but I don't think it was a Bigfoot. That night I got home, I was so intrigued and freaked out that I sat down and Googled Dogman. I had a distinct feeling that this thing wanted to hurt us. Maybe it might be fear of the unknown. Might have been the fact that it was slightly hunched. I was a skeptic before that night. 4 guys saw the same exact thing. Another thing, the second time, when we left, the eyes were behind the car. The guy looking back thought he saw something come and go from 2 to 4 legs. This is not the first time a friend of mine has seen it. He's seen it 2 other times. He showed us where it was. He was very, very quiet. It was not a human in a suit or a bear. I'll put a Bible on that. I just said 2 reasons it wasn't human. It could maneuver well on 4 legs and just moved so fast. The building didn't have graffiti on the exterior. Never saw the back of the building, so didn't notice if there was any there. I believe there is a swamp somewhere around there. I heard there was more than one of these things. Some people said there were 4 or 5 of them. One of my friends that went with us said that he and a couple of other buddies were driving by the Firebird very slow, and they saw the eyes, and it chased after them and put scratches in the trunk of his car. This is really goofy, I know. I'd like to go back with a video camera. I'm majoring in radiology, so I know enough about the body to tell about the features. I did not notice any reproductive organs. There was a lot of hair in that area. This thing didn't get any closer than 40 feet, but when I fired the car up, the guy in the back said it went down on all 4s and went real fast. I didn't see the eyes until we flashed the light on it. I don't think it was paranormal. I think this was definitely biological, not ghostly. I was not aware that other things like this were going on at the time I saw this thing. The only reason I refer to it as a Dogman is the fact that I've heard through local legend that there was a Dogman. So I really had no idea that there were other sightings of dogmen, or the body style it had.
Alright folks, a lot of just frightening experiences right there. Reptilian, Dogman. Oh God, I do not like reptilians. They frighten me more than Dogman. And I think the reason why is because deep down inside, we all know that they have an affiliation with our government, and our government is capable of making us disappear without a trace. That means they can too. Maybe that's what's going on with the 411s. Who knows? Anyway, guys, thank you for supporting the channel. Your support is what makes the channel special and what continues for this channel to grow and go. Please stay safe, happy, healthy, and ever vigilant, keeping an eye on our children, our pets, our family, and friends. These creatures are real. They're out there and they are dangerous. Share this information with the people you love and care about, and it may just help save their lives someday. Until next time, never stop asking questions and never stop searching for answers.